all the profit. Ain't going outside, don't know what you hearing, so miss me with that gossip. Saying sucker free from mob shit, let someone get out of pocket. Whoa, we come from different walks of life, but relate to the same cause. Fight and live a fight, laid up behind them hospital walls. They focus like a face, but like syringes sharper than a knife. Take a cookie from the jar, grind it, wrap it in the raw. YBT would stay loyal, no damn miss a prop. Shots to my producers, King Jones, it's a hop. AR with the alley-oop, I threw him up a lot. Far from a corny nigga, I'm the hottest side of cop. I had to boss up for a check, move my fam up out the jets, draft some key players in my set, sauce with a blue cheese dabber ranch. I am a club member, you a guest. Speak of my name, better put respect. Step under me, got a couple right. Fuck you got now, or who got up next? Yeah. AR the Prophet, Charlie Black, a deadly combination. It's been long overdue, I know the streets been waiting. Which takes a lot of patience, cause you never rush greatness. This one's for the record, but going down history in the making. AR the Prophet, Charlie Black, a deadly combination. It's been long overdue, I know the streets been waiting. Which takes a lot of patience, cause you never rush greatness. This one's for the record, but going down history in the making.
AR the Prophet, Charlie Black, Black Prophet, that's a fact. Going down in history and it's a fact. It's a deadly combo, niggas know that. Prophet, that's a fact. Black Prophet, from the bottom of the map. Atlanta, Georgia to Florida. We up in them waters, it's on, bruh. Black Prophet, that's a fact. Deadly combination, y'all got it at. They ain't ready for that shit, Charlie Black. Let's give it to him, bro. Welcome. Black Prophet. Yeah. Two young brothers from the same struggle, from the same blood, from the same mud. Black Prophet, that's a fact. AR and Charlie Black, boy, that's some crack. Black Prophet, now that's a fact. AR and Charlie Black, boy, we back to back. Black Prophet, it's a deadly combo. I know.
What's up, guys? What's going on? I am Mia, and this is my guest co-host tonight.
Constance Benson.
And we're with Sickle Cell Awareness 365 and Do I Look Sick? So today's show will be on sickle cell treatments and cures, and we have Constance here to talk about her experience with the bone marrow transplant. But before we get into that, we want to just discuss a few of the treatments. A lot of people ask, is there medicine or is there a cure for sickle cell? And even though there's not a universal cure, we actually have options now, which is really good. So getting into the medicines, the hydroxyurea came out in 1984, I believe.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
And they've been, of course, giving it to kids and giving it to people since then to help with the fetal hemoglobin, I think it was. And the fetal hemoglobin basically increases the hemoglobin. People with sickle cell deal with low hemoglobin, so that's helpful in that aspect. Did you have to take hydroxyurea when you were dealing with sickle cell?
Yes, I did. I had to take hydroxyurea when I had sickle cell, and for me, it didn't work for me.
Okay.
It was like I was just taking an additional pill just to take a pill. I didn't see any of the effects that it was supposed to have on me, like helping with my hemoglobin. I was really going down kind of fast, and I guess it didn't work for me. And the doctor said that some people it works for, some people it doesn't. I was the one that it didn't.
Yeah, and I personally don't take it, but I do have friends that take hydroxyurea, and it does decrease their amount of blood transfusions, which is really good. They deal with hair loss as one of the side effects, which for some people that's a huge problem.
Really?
Yes.
Hair loss?
Yes, they lose their hair because of it, because it is a chemo medicine. It was originally made as a cancer treatment.
Wow.
And they found that it helps with sickle cell patients. So,
wow, you learn something new every day. I didn't know that.
yeah, so I guess that's where the hair loss part comes from, because it is a chemo pill. So yes,
I know about hair loss. I lost mine, though.
I'm sure you did.
Shoot.
So yeah, that's with hydroxyurea. My doctor actually wanted to put me on it, but my hemoglobin stays pretty high, or between a 10 and a 12. So
Really?
Yes.
Your hemoglobin was that high?
Yes.
Honey,
It's always that around that.
Girl, wow. My hemoglobin, shoot, I had to have had 2 blood transfusions in order to get that.
Really?
Yeah, no, I was doing great if I was at an 8.
That's good. That's good for you.
Jesus,
But yeah.
You
mine
healthy
stays-
behind, okay. Okay.
That's what you would think, but yeah, so my hemoglobin stays pretty high. So I don't really take any additional treatments besides folic acid. So
Yeah.
I just deal with that.
Yeah.
So
I took that too.
everybody with sickle cell, everybody with or without sickle cell needs to take folic acid. So the next one that actually didn't come out till 20 years after hydroxyurea was Endari.
Yeah.
Now, Endari is one of the latest that was approved by the FDA, and that's a L-glutamine therapy. L-glutamine is basically an amino acid that our bodies naturally produce. And what it does is help with the oxidation of the cells, which allow them to regain the flexibility. You know, of course, when our cells sickle up, they're not as flexible, they're sticky, they're hard and rigid.
Yeah.
So the Endari helps with the flexibility and the oxidation of it, so that the blood cells can travel better through the blood
Can
vessels.
freely move without clumping and then causing pain. So,
Yep.
yeah.
So
Wow.
the Endari, I'm not too sure how many people are on Endari. I've heard that it is no different from what you can just get at GNC, but because this is a more FDA approved medicine, it's more expensive.
Really?
So yes.
Are you serious right now?
Yes. So even if insurance doesn't approve it, maybe you can go to GNC and take it. I don't know.
Wow.
Since it's more of a natural supplement, everything is good in moderation. So I'm not sure how people have been affected by Endari, but I know tons of people on hydroxyurea. So
yeah, I know a lot of people on hydroxyurea, and I know people who were on it and it didn't work for them either, but there are some people who it does work for. I personally don't remember anybody, but I do know that I have met someone or two who hydroxyurea works for. As far as Endari, I haven't heard anything about Endari, but then again, I'm one person, so don't judge. But wow, in order for it to be, it's FDA approved, and then I'm I'm flabbergasted. I love what it's supposed to do, but I feel some type of way about it that,
yeah. So you're going to be even more shocked at the next two, which were just approved by the FDA late in 2019, last year.
Okay.
So Oxbryta, which is also called Voxelotor, that one stops the sickling and destruction of the red blood cells by increasing the hemoglobin, of course.
Okay.
Pretty much like hydroxyurea.
Okay.
It should reduce not only the amount of acute pain episodes, but also the frequency of blood transfusions. Because of the expense, very few people are approved. It's very, very costly.
Wow.
My doctor said it's about $9,900 per month.
Say what?
Yes.
$9,900.
Uh-oh.
See, look, my phone fell. It couldn't believe that. $9,900 a month?
A month
How
for
much
the
is
medication.
that?
So that's about
A year?
$120,000 a year.
Ah, God. Wow.
So yeah, that and the next one is pretty expensive. So I was also told the only people that are really being approved for it, the population of Jehovah's Witnesses, because they don't believe in blood transfusions. So the Oxbryta helps with that. So that's the good part about that. But having access to it and it being so costly, that's a huge problem.
Wow. So it's something that people, mostly Jehovah's Witnesses, are able to get because they don't believe in blood transfusions. But for I don't know how that works, but for everybody it costs $9,900 a month.
Well, from my source, which told me not to name his name,
Okay, we don't name names here.
he said that, well, it's not just Jehovah's Witnesses, but they're approving more Jehovah's Witnesses because they don't believe in blood transfusions.
Wow.
But there are a few people that aren't Jehovah's Witnesses that have been approved for Oxbryta. It's just not many. A lot of people are getting rejected because of the cost of the medicine. So
Jesus.
they created this medicine for sickle cell patients to give them a better chance at life. However, they'd be struggling to even come up with the copay for the medication to help them. So it's like kind of a lose-lose situation. So
God, that hurts.
yeah. Same thing with the Adagvio, which is an infusion therapy. And this also increases the fetal hemoglobin. And it decreases the stickiness of the cells.
Okay.
So instead of, my question is, if it decreases the stickiness of the cells, are the cells still sickle shaped with this one? Like, I know you don't know, but that's just my question. Okay, it helps with the stickiness, but it's still sickle shaped. It's still going to be, I imagine, sharp and still difficult to travel.
Okay, so let's think about it. If we're trying to get a visual of it and having this medication, was it Adagvio?
Yeah.
Adagvio. Think of it as like a sickle. A sickle, you know what? A boomerang.
Okay.
How about that?
Okay.
Think of yourself like a boomerang before you get a Adagvio, and then afterwards think of it more so as a kind of banana. It's got a little
less,
bit.
okay.
Yeah, it's less sharp. I'm thinking like more rounded edges so that it can maneuver better through your vessels and veins and everything. So if that's what it does, then I can understand
See that.
Yeah.
That would make sense. So
Yeah.
So it's, I love the advancement on the medications that we have now. I love the options that we have now because you know how it is fighting with this disease. So I love that we have these options now, and there actually people out there trying to give us a better chance at life with these medications. So I really hope that, you know, more people can get access to these medications and start to live a better life and not be so debilitated by this disease. So
absolutely. I think that especially if any one of these medications works for anybody, I would love for it to be very accessible and inexpensive or free for those with sickle cell disease, because there's nothing like your parents being told, like, oh, your child has a slim chance to live into their teens, then in their 20s, and in their 30s, and everything else is like a miracle. Yeah. So to be able to give that gift of life, because we all only have one life on this earth, to be able to give us options that, okay, hydroxyurea doesn't work, maybe Indari will work, or maybe Oxbrita or Adecvio will work, to give us that option and that ability to extend our lives. That's awesome, especially if it works for us.
Exactly. I completely agree with that.
Yes.
So I think that's really it as far as the medications that we have. If you take any of these medications, let us know how it works for you. Our number is 470-251-4647. If you take any of them, give us a call. Let us know how it is for you, and let our viewers know how it's working for you. Maybe it's good, maybe it's bad, and everybody's body is different. So, you know, maybe it works for you, but it didn't work for her, and that's okay. Maybe one person lost their hearing, maybe the other person didn't. So give us a call, 470-251-4647. So the next part, we are going to get into the cures, which is very exciting. So I want you guys to take a quick look at this clip of Constance with Be the Match, correct?
Yes.
And just get a snippet of her story before she gets into it. So take a look at this.
1 in 365 African Americans battle sickle cell disease. I was one of them. Life back then was painful. I was in and out of the hospital and had frequent pain crises. A blood stem cell transplant is the only cure for sickle cell disease. I was fortunate to find a perfect match in my younger sister, but many patients do not have a compatible donor in their families, and Black patients have only a 23% chance of finding an unrelated donor. More Black donors are urgently needed to help save lives. It only takes a simple cheek swab to join the Be the Match registry. Learn more about becoming a donor and access free patient resources by visiting endsicklecell.org today. You or someone you know could be the cure for a patient battling sickle cell, like me.
So yeah, that was just a quick snippet of Constance's story of her bone marrow transplant. So I want to get into what made your parents actually decide to, okay, enough is enough. Let's do this.
Oh my God, there was so much leading up to me getting a transplant. I'll answer that, and then just let me know if I'm talking a little bit too long.
Okay.
When I was in college around 2010, I was at Georgia State University, and I was living in an apartment downtown, and I was going to classes, living the traditional college experience, and I was starting to have pain, like more pain than I usually was accustomed to. So I wound up missing classes, and then I was like, okay, I'm getting into more pain than I usually am, so I decided to take a semester off. In taking that semester off during the Christmas holiday, I submitted myself for a modeling agency, which was Wilhelmina and Conshohocken. Now, if you know me, you know I love to model. I love taking pictures and being in front of a camera, like fierce. Like Tyra is like my, anyway, it's my girl. We hadn't met yet, but I'd love to meet you, girl. So I started, I rode a Greyhound bus in the middle of winter all the way up to Philadelphia. Yeah, and it was blizzards up there too. Right. And it was snowing. I went up there because I was like, this is my chance for a dream. My dream is coming true. I want it. And so I went up there to audition, and guess what? I got it.
Okay.
Yes,
awesome.
they offered me a modeling contract, and I was so freaking excited. But I lived in Kennesaw, Georgia, which was about 13 hours away from Philadelphia. Wow. Yep, Conshohocken. So I had my grandmother in New Jersey, and thankful for my grandmother. She would let me stay over there whenever I needed to come up to Philadelphia to model. Anyways, around 2011, that's when the modeling contract started. I believe that's when the modeling contract started happening, 2010, 2011. And every time when I would make a trip up and down the road, I would be sick. I would get sicker and sicker, and I would be hospitalized. I'd either go up there and then come back and go straight into the ER, straight to my doctor's office, or just be directly admitted into the hospital. After about 9 months or so of doing that, my parents, the whole entire time, they saw how sick I was becoming, and they just kept telling me over and over again, you need this transplant, you need this transplant. And I humored them because so they would stop annoying me, because I didn't think I was as sick as I was. So my parents started from me when I first started going up to Philadelphia, because every time when I came back, I was getting sicker and sicker and staying in the hospital longer and longer.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
And I can imagine us as sickle cell warriors, we try our best to live out our dreams, but sometimes it gets deterred. I won't say completely stopped, but it gets deterred because of sickle cell. So what was the deciding factor for you? You said that you didn't think you were as sick as you were. So what made you decide, okay, I'm going to go ahead and go through with it?
So let me back up a little bit. When I went up to Philadelphia to get the modeling contract, this was the first time ever in my life that I didn't tell people that I had sickle cell disease. It's the first time ever. I didn't want anybody to look at me as less than, or like I couldn't do my job, and it was my dream, and I wasn't gonna let anything get in my way. So that the traveling back and forth, they never knew I was in the hospital every single time when I left them. The very last time I was in the ER at Kennestone I was hospitalized in Kennestone Hospital, and I had my Dilaudid PCA. I was on my fentanyl patches, 125 micrograms at the time. I was getting a lot of drugs, and I got a call. They were like, hey, Wilhelmina up in New York, they have something going on. We talked to them, and there's a Wiz Khalifa music video. We need you to be in New York in 2 days for the audition. And I was like, what? Okay. I was a little sick. So I was like, yeah, okay. So I was like, yes. Hooked up to the PCA in a full-blown sickle cell crisis.
Wow.
Yeah. So I was feeling the drugs thinking that I was better than I was. Well, I told my doctor, Dr. Karma Class, she's phenomenal. I told Dr. Class, I said, unhook me. I have somewhere to be. I have to drive up to New York, to my grandma's in Jersey, then to New York, so I can audition for this Wiz Khalifa music video. Because I was like, this is my break. I'm finally making it to Wilhelmina in New York. Well, she unhooked me, and I did not make it past the bathroom door, which was 5 feet away. And that was devastating. So I realized that, I was sicker than I thought I was, and that my body was really shutting down on me, and it was in pain, but I couldn't fully admit that to myself. Anyways, I didn't make it past the door. I called my agent and told him I couldn't make it, and then I revealed I had sickle cell disease and that I was in the hospital, and that was the last time I ever spoke to my agent. And from there, I started to realize when that dream just pulled away from me, I started realizing, okay, yeah, I am in a lot of pain. Yeah, I am getting sick. Yeah, it's getting worse. It's getting worse, but I didn't think I was on death's door the way I was. Yeah. I couldn't see that.
Yeah. I think a lot of times just us dealing with it, we don't see how sick we are. Like, we don't realize it until someone else says it. I've dealt with another disorder separate to sickle cell, and even though I could feel like I was just horrible, my family was super scared. So I can understand that extent. So who was your donor?
My donor was my little sister, Samantha.
And how was that process?
How was that process?
Yeah. How was that for her?
How was that for her?
Yeah.
She, you know what? She was a trooper. She's like really afraid of needles.
Okay.
Yeah. So you hear bone marrow transplant donor, there's gonna be some needles involved.
Right.
But she handled everything so beautifully. She did have a little bit of pain. Not pain. Yeah, soreness / pain in her back after they had the extraction. But she went home after they discharged her. She went home and just had a heating pad on and hung out on the couch at the house. And she was out of school for like the rest of the week because, you know, I would have been out too. And but she was able to be able to function and go about doing her normal stuff within like a day or two of the transplant. So my sister is a trooper. My sister, she handled it so well, even though she's afraid of needles, and she did that for me.
That's awesome. And so what was the entire process like for you? Like from beginning to end, you realize, okay, yeah, I'm really sick. I need this. Like, how did it start? I know, did they have to take your sister and you at the same time? Like, what was that process like?
It was so many things happened. I am the first person cured of sickle cell via the STRIDE HCT bone marrow transplant study. At the time, we believe that I was the 10th adult in the world cured of sickle cell disease. I said adult, not child, because they've been curing children for decades now. But as far as adults, that information isn't necessarily as accessible. So as far as we know, I'm the 10th adult cured of the disease. But I was the first person for the STRIDE HCT bone marrow transplant. It was a study. It was experimental. And it took a whole lot longer for them to get it together. So I believe the process was maybe about a year and a half, 2 years. If my memory serves me correctly, which I could be slightly off on my timeline. I blame that on chemo. But it was a long process because initially the insurance company wanted the study. It was broken up into 2 parts. They wanted the study, in order for them to fund it, it needed to be put into one part, one study. So that took time. And those are people behind the scenes who will never ever meet you. It's your insurance company debating about your life and trying to get people on board. Well, it was a lot of meetings. It was a lot of meetings back and forth, a lot of doctor's appointments. And when I would go to my doctor's appointments, my little sister, my parents would be with us, and my little sister would also go as well. And they would do little tests and stuff with her while she was there. And if she needed some blood drawn, they would draw her labs there. But she was always with me. It was a long process. A very long process because I was the first and they catered the study.
Yeah, it was, like you said, it was experimental. So they were just trying this out on you.
Yes, they
Pretty
were.
Much.
They had no idea if it would work.
It would work.
Yeah, my parents.
And I can imagine that can be scary in itself. Because I need y'all to have this figured out before I deal with it. That's just me, though. Yeah. That's just me. I need y'all to have it figured out. I need to see the effects of it. Who did what? I need to know those type of things.
It's funny you said that because there was nobody for me to talk to. I had nobody to talk to that already had a bone marrow transplant with sickle cell, an adult.
Yeah.
Now, they've been curing children, and that's great, but I needed an adult, a female. Female, male, I don't care.
Yeah.
That would have been great to talk to. So I was really, it was like, okay, we're breaking ground. We're doing something awesome, starting a revolution. And I was like, okay. As far as all knowing everything, having everything figured out, I didn't. I'm gonna be completely honest with you. I didn't even think I was as sick as I was. Even being in that hospital bed and having to be unhooked from the dilaudid PCA and not being able to go 5 feet past the bathroom door, I still didn't think I was as bad as I was. So I went along with it, not really thinking anything about it.
Yeah.
I went along with my parents, and I thank God for my parents. My mama, she really helped keep me sane. Both of my parents, they stayed with me every single hospitalization. My brother would come up, my little sister, who was in middle school at the time. It was a lot. I didn't realize how sick I was, and to be honest, I really didn't realize how sick I was until it was right before, a month or two before my bone marrow transplant, when I caught C. diff, and then I caught a blood clot.
What's C. diff?
C. diff, basically you poop. You catch it from somebody not being sanitary, and somehow you ingest it somehow, and all you do is you just poop, and you're dehydrated, and your poop stinks, and they come in your room with these funny looking outfits. I mean, it stinks like, oh my God, poopery. No, it's okay. Just don't get it. Like, wash your hands, people, okay? And be careful where you go out to eat, because I'm pretty sure that might have been how I got it.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
So, yeah, any infection plus sickle cell is just a bad combination.
Because it dehydrated the crap out of me. Okay?
Wow.
And with that being said, triggered the pain crises. And then the other part was that I had, I got out of the hospital for that. And then my sister went, she had spring break, and I felt so bad because I kept, it seems like every time I turned around, I was always in a sickle cell crisis, and she was missing out on stuff. So I wanted her to legit be a kid and have a break. So she had a break. They wound up going to some indoor water park in Tennessee. I forget what it's called. And I felt like crap the whole time, and I had just got out of the hospital. Well, I waited to the very last day when we were on our way home to tell my parents, like, hey, I really am not feeling well. I've been in pain this whole time. I don't feel good. Come to find out, I had pneumonia. Yes, I had pneumonia. So we drove back. They dropped my sister off and packed my bag, because my parents always had a bag on standby, because they knew I would always be sick and in the hospital.
Right.
So after being at home and seeing I wasn't getting any better, I was admitted into the hospital, and they ran a test and found out I had pneumonia.
Wow.
So Dr. Class came in, and they were giving me treatments for the pneumonia, but my fever wasn't breaking. And I remember my head hurting so bad. It felt like somebody was taking a sledgehammer to my head. It hurt so bad, and it just wouldn't go away. And nothing that they wouldn't give me certain things. They were trying, I don't know what was going on, but my fever wouldn't break. So I think about 2-3 days later, Dr. Class comes into the room, and she says, it's very early in the morning when she was making her rounds, and my mother had been sleeping on the pull-out bed the couch, and the cot.
Yeah.
And she came in, and she was just like, I don't know what's wrong with you.
Mm-hmm.
She said, you should be getting better. I don't know what's wrong with you. And when she came in, me and my mom looked at each other. My mother is a traveling nurse, and she had to work that day. But me, Dr. Class, and my mother, we all came together, looked at each other, had a moment of silence for a second. Then we gave each other a hug, and me with my little hospital pole.
That's all right.
Yeah, gave each other a hug, and then I pulled back, and I had a calmness come over me, and I said, no, you're going to figure out what it is. I turned to Dr. Class and said, you're going to figure out what it is that's wrong with me. You are going to fix this, and I'm going to get out of this hospital, and this is it. That's going to be the end of it. Well, her and my mother composed themselves and looked at each other and put on a brave face for me. I know they were faking it, and I appreciate that faking it because it meant a lot. Yeah. And then she said, okay. So she left, and I turned to my mom, and I asked her not to leave me that day because I really needed my mommy. Yeah. Because we didn't know what was going on. Yeah. The very next day or something like that, it was the weekend, there was an on-call doctor, and he looked at my x-ray, and he saw a little speck. Well, if you've ever seen pneumonia on an x-ray, it's all white. It's all white. Well, he found a little speck. Come to find out, I had a blood clot that was right up under the pneumonia, and it was so tiny. Yeah. So as soon as they gave me the medicine, everything, my fever started going down. I started getting better. The shots in the stomach, but yeah, fun. But the fever started going down and started getting better and better. And then my mother and my advocates over there at Emory, they started going into overdrive. But my mother and my doctors, everybody started going for them to make this happen. The insurance companies, doctors, everybody, make this happen because my mama almost lost her child. Uh-oh. This thing don't like it. Anyway, so that was the moment when all that stuff was going on. That was the moment when I realized I was really bad, and that, it's serious. And I was so glad that I had my parents pushing me, and my family, my brother and my sister really pushing me to humor them and to make this process happen. Go to all the appointments, get stuck 50 million times, all these different things, jump through these hoops to get the transplant. And it was in that moment that I realized that I was close. It was close to me dying, and that I was so thankful that we were doing all of this. It never occurred to me what the repercussions were, or what the problems could be, or what issues could arise. It never even dawned on me, because honestly, I didn't think I'd be alive in 2, 3, or even 5 years. I'm pretty sure I would have been dead by now.
Wow.
Yeah.
And how long has it been since you've been cured?
Well, I was cured on October 30th, 2012. So technically, I am about to be 8 years old this year.
Okay, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That is awesome.
I'm about to be 8, y'all. Like, sorry.
Oh, goodness.
I hope you learned that.
So, do you have the trait now? Can you pass it to kids, or how does that part work?
You know, believe it or not, my sister had the trait. She had sickle cell trait.
So you carry her genotype?
I believe I do, because I'm a chimera. I'm a mix of me and her, but more so her. And I believe I do carry the trait as far as like my blood now. But I still have my eggs. My eggs are sickle cell. Okay. They are full-blown sickle cell. Okay. And actually, I told you how I wasn't really trying to have the transplant. Mm-hmm. Well, I did one thing to try and really push it to see, my parents really don't want me to have this transplant. So I was testing their gangster. And one of my things that I was holding out was I wanted to save my eggs just in case the chemo affected my body, affected my eggs and my ability to reproduce. So I actually wound up going through the little fertility treatments, and I have some eggs saved.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so I have some, I'm not sure if these got chemo or not. Pray to God they don't. And then I have some, this don't have chemo eggs in the refrigerator, a nice freezer in Atlanta.
Just waiting to be seen.
Yeah, just waiting to be seen. Yeah.
All right, that was awesome. So if you guys have any questions for Constance, please call 470-251-4647. That's 470-251-4647. So one of the other, or the most latest cure is gene therapy.
Yes. And
Jennifer and I sat in on a focus group when this first came about, and initially because they're extracting your DNA and they're fixing the mutated gene and putting it back in your body. And what really scared me about this is, okay, it's great that you're changing the gene to not have sickle cell anymore, but you're also, in the bigger picture, you're changing my DNA. Yeah. So it's like, what else is going to change?
Yeah, that's scary.
It's very scary. Yeah. And at that point, when we did the focus group, of course, it wasn't as much information as it is now. So I probably still personally wouldn't do it, but again, that's me.
Why?
I'm good.
You're good.
You know, I've been dealing with sickle cell 36 years. I have SC, so it's not as bad as some people. Like, I've had both of my hips replaced. I don't get blood transfusions. As I already said, my hemoglobin stays between a 10 and a 12. So I honestly don't think I would even be a candidate for any of it, because there's many more people that's more severe than me. So I'll just deal with what I got.
I used to think that way too. I didn't think I was as bad as I was.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's different. You just gotta know yourself, know your body, have your team, and it's okay to actually hear your family out, because sometimes they can see stuff that you just can't see.
That's true.
That was the one thing about getting the transplant. No matter what type of transplant or treatment you get to cure sickle cell, I was afraid that I was quitting, and that I lived by the mantra, God wouldn't put more on me than I can bear.
Right.
And I kind of saw myself as the disease. I was like, Constance is sickle cell instead of Constance Benson has sickle cell.
Gotcha.
So I definitely understand your hesitations.
Yeah.
I know that with the different studies that they do, a lot of times they look for people who are who have frequent hospitalizations every single year. There's different requirements for a lot of different ones, but you can see them on the various websites, and we're going to plug that in a minute. But they look for people who are sick, who need it, and for me, the reason why they selected me was because if I didn't have it, I would be dead.
Yeah.
I was dying and I didn't know it.
Yeah.
So I absolutely understand all of your frustrations and everything, and I definitely respect that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
But yeah, with the gene therapy, what they do is, and I know a lot of people were thrown off on the 2020 special with the term HIV. No, they are not exchanging sickle cell for HIV.
Yeah, that would have been nice to differentiate. Like, help me. You're not trying to sell me on this. For real.
So what they do is, we're going to call it a lentivirus, and it's like the envelope that carries the corrected DNA.
Yeah.
So let's say they put the corrected DNA in this lentivirus envelope, and the envelope then is sent to the bone marrow, so that the envelope is sent to the bone marrow, and eventually the envelope dies off and releases the new DNA, or the corrected gene copy, and then the bone marrow produces off of the corrected gene copy. So that's what the gene therapy is. That one also, they said it's two different kinds of gene therapy, one that increases the fetal hemoglobin, and one that just one that alters the gene to
increase the fetal hemoglobin and to decrease crisis. So
exactly, thank you. And wants to do the bone marrow to produce the better cells. So yeah, and the good thing about the gene therapy is you don't have to worry about finding a match, because you're working off of your own blood and your own body. So
I love that.
Yeah, I like that option.
I love that, the fact that it can just be you, and you don't necessarily have to have a donor, because there are criteria for your donors, and they have to have certain number of matches. My sister was a 10 out of 10. She was a perfect match for me. It was nothing but God, how the way everything worked out, because if you ask certain people would think that your life wasn't worth saving, but it so is.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mine was, and I like to use my platform to help other people. So for somebody, whether you need a donor, which if you do need a donor and you don't have a genetic one, you should check out Be the Match. They have a bone marrow registry, and they're awesome. This is what they do. This is their business, and they've launched the End Sickle Cell campaign. So that was actually the PSA that you had saw earlier. It was working with that as well. And then on the flip side, for those who don't necessarily need a match, who are great candidates and they can use their own body, that is absolutely fantastic. I wonder how that approach is different from my approach.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I just love that option. I don't have to worry about finding that match. I can just go in and you do what you do to me, and that's it. I don't have to worry about finding this other person.
Me too, because that's a huge concern.
Yeah, it is.
That's a huge concern.
So I know I've had a lot of people ask me about Dr. Sebi and his cure for many diseases, including sickle cell. And it's not that I don't believe it doesn't work.
Yeah.
I think that if you can afford it, if you are disciplined enough to follow his guidelines and can continuously take the medications or the tinctures or the syrups or whatever it is that he has, then yes, it's very possible that your complications will be minimized. I want to be careful on saying it was an actual cure.
Yeah.
Because I think at the end of the day, on a microscope, we still have some issues. Yeah. And I also believe, okay, the minute you stop following Dr. Sebi's protocols, then all those issues will come back.
Yeah.
Like, it has to be a continuous thing that you keep up with in order for it to actually work. So I know it's a lot of people, yeah, Dr. Sebi, this and that, you know, but you really have to think about it. Like, can you afford it? A lot of people with sickle cell are on disability, so they can't afford to keep up with it. Insurance isn't going to pay for it. Yeah. So, especially not Medicare or Medicaid.
I have no comment on it.
I'm just saying they're not going to pay for Dr. Sebi's, things. And they're not, like I mentioned to you earlier, with having a whole entire lifestyle change, really incorporating wellness into our lives. Like, we have to take health to the 1,000th degree because everything affects us so much, from the weather to the food to being in cold temperatures, everything. I say that we're fragile, and it's not that we're fragile. Our bodies are kind of fragile, but we're super strong. We're superhuman. Yeah. So, but the disease itself is fragile because if the wind blow and we just fall out, Yeah. So, incorporating things like yoga, which is physical therapy, eating better. You can Google foods that help you. Beets. I know that I say beets and people, I get that. But
beets, it tastes like dirt. It tastes like dirt.
It's good for iron. So those who deal with low iron, instead of getting blood transfusions, maybe you can eat more beets, put more beets in your diet. Or I've even heard of liquid chlorophyll. I talked to someone who she can feel when her hemoglobin is low, and she'll take liquid chlorophyll and sometimes avoid having to get a transfusion. So that just kind of goes back to the whole lifestyle change and incorporating all these wellness aspects and having that mind, body, soul connection to minimize our complications. We won't, if we do it this route, it won't completely take away the disease. And like I said, I want to be careful in saying that's a cure, but I really, really believe that it would help minimize our complications. We need to learn disease management and not pain management.
Yes, please learn disease management and not pain management, because that opens up a whole new can of worms, and that's another topic I could talk about. But as far as Dr. Sebi, what are the so he was talking about foods and everything? Yeah, like as far as helping to manage your sickle cell. We're saying manage, not the C word, cure. But we're saying manage. So Dr. Sebi had a regimen on on different foods and things that you needed to eat, and tinctures you needed to take in order to stay from having a crisis?
Yeah, so there's a list of foods that you need to be aware of, and there's a list of tinctures that, different syrups and stuff that people can take that affects the iron, or if you deal with sugar problems that have those. So, if anybody is actually interested in Dr. Sebi, you can always Google him and it'll send you to his website, because I don't know the website offhand, but all that information is on there. So
when you said special food, I like to pretend like I'm vegan sometimes, and you know how they
it's
have
past vegan. It's past.
It is so. Could I have a little fake cauliflower?
No, you can't even have cauliflower on his thing. That's such a fake vegetable. Yes.
Oh.
So.
Okay.
So we're gonna wrap up. But the last thing I wanted to mention was clinicaltrials.gov.
Yes.
If you are interested in any of the clinical trials, please go to that website and type in sickle cell and see what's available. I want to shout out our sponsors, which is the Apex Museum, Kids Stop Daycare and Learning Center, and our new sponsor, Black Professionals Network. So we want to thank those sponsors for helping us out, make this happen. Thank you to Status Network. Thank you to Constance, who was a great co-host. Thank you for sharing your story. Hey, we didn't get any phone calls, but that's okay, because I think you did a great job in telling people about your experience. So I appreciate you coming in and helping me today.
Thank you. It's no worries. You can have me back anytime. I love to. Oh, and can I plug my website?
Yes, please go ahead.
Okay, so my website is roadtothecure.com. That's www.road, ROAD, the number 2, cure.com. Now, on my website, I have my bone marrow transplant study and different things that I'm doing as far as sickle cell, and I recorded my whole transplant, transplant story, but I hadn't released everything yet because I wasn't necessarily mentally ready for it.
Okay.
But I think I am now. Anyways, on my website, one of the tabs I have, just in case you're looking for transplant studies, aside from, what was the website?
Clinicaltrials.gov.
Clinicaltrials.gov. I also have JCCTP Clinical Trials SCD, and also have the NIH SCD Clinical Trials. If you go to my website in that tab, it'll take you directly to them, and you can play around and see who's open for enrollment and everything like that, and play around with the locations.
Okay.
So yeah.
Well, thank you, ma'am, and I thank you guys for watching. Follow us, SCA365, on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, and we'll catch y'all in a couple of weeks.
All right, bye.
Down history in the making.
Hail the prophet, Charlie Black prophet, that's a fact. Going down in history, and it's a fact. It's a deadly combo, niggas know that. Prophet, that's a fact. Black prophet, from the bottom of the map. Atlanta, Georgia to Florida. We up in